Arson Laws in New York by attorney Andrew M. Stengel. Arson charges in New York involve allegations of the intentional destruction of property by a fire or an explosion. There are 5 degrees of arson charges in New York. 1 degree is a misdemeanor, and 4 other degrees are classified as felonies. Arson charges are commonly allegations of intentional damage to a building, home, or car. Arson charges do not require damage to property to be complete destruction. Arson can be charged if damage to a property is only slight, such as charring. The most important defense to an arson charge is that a person did not intentionally or recklessly cause a fire or explosion. A skilled defense attorney may be able to negate the required intent of the arson charges based on the facts and the possibility of an accident. In New York, intentionally is defined as a conscious objective to cause a result. Thus, an accident is a defense to arson charges. Therefore, an accidental fire may be a complete defense when the arson charge requires intentional damage to property by fire or intentionally starting a fire that results in damage to a person's property. Some degrees of arson charges have an affirmative defense built into the law. Unlike the typical burden in a criminal prosecution to prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, which rests on the prosecution, the burden of an affirmative defense is with the defendant. New York's affirmative defenses to arson charges commonly involve sole ownership in the property that was allegedly damaged by arson. If a person charged with arson solely owns the property that is allegedly damaged by arson, then the affirmative defense of sole ownership may apply. In New York, arson in the 5th degree Penal Law Section 150.01 is a Class A misdemeanor. Arson in the 5th degree is charged when a person allegedly intentionally damages property of another person without the consent of the owner by intentionally starting a fire or causing an explosion. As a Class A misdemeanor, the maximum sentence for arson in the 5th degree is 1 year in prison. However, an experienced arson lawyer may be able to obtain a complete dismissal or a non-criminal plea bargain to the criminal charge. Payment of restitution for the damaged property may be required as part of any dismissal, plea bargain, or sentence. Arson in the 4th degree Penal Law Section 150.05 is a Class E felony in New York. Arson in the 4th degree is similar to arson in the 5th degree, except the crime requires a reckless act instead of an intentional act. Arson in the 4th degree is charged when a person allegedly recklessly damages a building or motor vehicle by intentionally starting a fire or causing an explosion. As a Class E felony, the crime carries a maximum sentence of 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison for a first felony conviction, but prison is not mandatory if a judge makes favorable findings relating to the person who is charged. A person who receives a favorable plea bargain may be required to make restitution to the owner of the damaged property. Arson in the 3rd degree, Penal Law Section 150.10 is a Class C felony in New York. Arson in the 3rd degree is charged when a person allegedly intentionally damages a building or motor vehicle by starting a fire or causing an explosion. The Class C felony has a maximum sentence of 5 to 15 years and a minimum of 1 to 3 years in prison for a first-time felony offender. A prison sentence is mandatory unless a judge makes a finding that prison is not in the public interest and justice would not be served because of the allegations, the history, or character condition of the person who is charged. In New York, arson in the 2nd degree Penal Law Section 150.15 is a Class B felony. A person may be charged with arson in the second degree when a person allegedly intentionally damages a building or motor vehicle by starting a fire and another person who is not a participant in the charged crime is present in the building or motor vehicle at the time, and the person charged knows that fact or the circumstances are such as to render the presence of another person as a reasonable possibility. Arson in the second degree has a mandatory minimum prison sentence of at least 5 years and a maximum of 25 years in prison for a first felony offender, in addition to 2.5 to 5 years post-release supervision. In New York, arson in the first degree, Penal Law Section 150.20, is a Class A1 felony. The crime has a maximum prison sentence of 25 years to life and a minimum of 15 years to life. Arson in the first degree is charged when a person allegedly intentionally damages a building or motor vehicle by causing an explosion or a fire by an incendiary device or explosive, and causes a serious physical injury to a non-participant, or the accused expected a financial gain by the arson. Former New York prosecutor Andrew M. Stengel is an experienced and knowledgeable arson charges lawyer. Andrew M. Stengel is a skilled trial attorney, a diligent investigator, and an aggressive advocate. Whether the case involves an allegation of arson or any other criminal charge or investigation, Andrew M. Stengel provides skilled and vigorous legal advice and representation. For more information, visit the website of Andrew M. Stengel, www.stengellaw.com, or send an email to info@stengellaw.com. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.